And light indicates it's on, we hope. So I'll call the meeting of our Ware Energy Commission to order at 7:05 on March the 19th. And first on the agenda tonight, we have a guest from the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to present tonight. Excited to be in Ware. It's my first time here. Neat little community. I went over the little one-lane bridge and then stopped for a chicken and let it cross the road. And I was like, oh, this is a nice introduction to Ware. Did a little reading on the Pine Tree Ride as well. I wasn't aware of that history, and that's pretty cool.
We celebrate illegal acts on our police
I
cars.
love it.
Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah, for CPCNH, I'm the Community Energy Advisor. Unfortunately, Andrew Hatch had another engagement this evening, so I'm here in his stead, and I look forward to talking to you all about community power. So, we'll start with the basics. What is community power? And then I'm going to walk through some information. I like to say community power by the numbers. What are our stats to date? I'll talk about our current rates as well as what's out there in terms of competition and how things are looking in the regulatory space with regards to rates. I think it's a really important piece of the conversation, especially right now. And then walk through some of the steps that would be required to join if, Ware were to choose to do so, as well as some of the other opportunities we have beyond just being an electricity supplier, right? There are other things that communities can take advantage of through CPCNH, and I think it's worth bringing up early in the conversation.
Oh.
So, starting with the what is community power, on a most basic level, if a community like Ware is to launch a community power program, well, they become the new default electricity provider for the residents and businesses, meaning that instead of Eversource being the default electricity supplier, it now becomes like Ware Community Power. Eversource, the utility company, still maintains the infrastructure. They're still your local infrastructure utility. They make sure that the grid reliability is happening, but you benefit from having more rate competition and options available to your residents and businesses. And the competitiveness that we get in our rates, part of that comes from leveraging pooled purchasing power. It's the same thing as really buying anything in bulk, right? When you take a bunch of communities across the state, you have all of that electric load and you're able to pool it together. That gives you some leverage in the marketplace. And we use a nice portfolio management company that's excellent at helping us work through those purchase strategies, which I'm happy to talk about more. And then
Was the legislation in the legislature that enabled this?
Yeah, so it's actually at the bottom of the slide. So
okay,
RSA 53E is
That's
the
it,
specific RSA that allows for municipalities and counties to become their default electric provider. And like I'll point out, this is optional. Of course, there is that initial enrollment that occurs, and everyone's noticed in advance of a program going live. But customers can switch back to Eversource or their local default utility, or certainly they can take products through a competitive supplier. If they are on a competitive supplier, and I'll highlight this again later, when you launch your program, they're not going to be taken off that competitive supplier, right? So they'll remain with whatever contract they have. And it's in statute that these programs have to be paid for by the revenues received from the customer base that participates, right? So you can't use tax dollars to fund programs like this. They have to be self-funded through the sale of electricity. So, the four, main pillars that I like to include when talking about CPCNH is, I've mentioned some of these already, but you have competitive rates and expanded choices for people. We also really value financial stability, building up sufficient financial reserves on behalf of our communities to ensure, rate stability, to ensure that we can absorb any market price shocks that might occur, and make sure that we're being responsible in operating these programs. Another nice benefit of this is so-called, the co-production of knowledge, the chance to connect with people from all across New Hampshire that are interested in energy issues. We now have 70 members. We have 50 programs that are operating, right? So it really allows for some really strong regional collaboration and the ability to potentially have multiple communities working on an energy project together, or at least sharing ideas on how to approach things. I've heard that, this is a relatively new energy commission. I think it's excellent that you've taken initiative in this community to form an energy commission. But you may benefit from some of that, collaboration and talking to commissions that have been up and running for a period of years. And then also, one thing that I think is strong about CPCNH in particular is we have a director of regulatory and legislative affairs that works with a number of different parties, but we have the ability to have pretty strong public advocacy now because we have so many people that are under our umbrella. And I think that's really helpful when advocating for community issues at a regulatory and legislative level. And we're working on some things there. So this is kind of moving away from sort of broader strokes and talking more about, the key points, some of which I've already mentioned here. So when you launch a program, right, folks that are with Eversource, they've never made another election for their electricity supply would be automatically enrolled. However, they have a 30-day at minimum notice period where they're mailed and it says, okay, in 30 days, you're going to be enrolled in Ware Community Power. However, you don't have to be. You can notify us through a number of different methods and we'll make sure that you're not enrolled. So it's voluntary participation, but the reason they're launched in this nature is to give the coalition, to give the program that pooled purchasing power it needs to get competitive pricing. If it was just an opt-in program, you wouldn't have that load to be able to get competitive pricing. Again, Eversource would be your electric utility. They'd be responsible for infrastructure, outages, all the things they handle now. They actually don't currently make any money off of electricity supply. So it's really not hurting their bottom line, and we are trying to make sure we have good collaboration with the utilities, although sometimes we do need to push back on certain things.
Can you say that again? Who's not making money on what?
So electric utilities, at least the investor-owned electric utilities to be specific, and the same should be true for the co-op as well, their business model does not rely on them having margins on their the supply portion of the bill. So there's a bunch of things, and I'll walk through an electric bill from Eversource that you get charged for, right, that make up your total costs. The supply portion is supposed to just be a pass-through. They're going out into the market and they're passing through that cost to the customer, but they actually make money off of the investments in the infrastructure, which has its own set of problems, and our consumer advocate could speak to a lot of that. But that's the basis for answering that question. I talked through third-party supply, and I talked through the self-funded portion, so that's a bit of a reiteration there. This is showing, I'm not going to mention all the names, but it's our coalition membership. You can see that we do have a lot of active members, as I mentioned, across the state. In blue are our programs that are operating. Red, the red outline are communities that have, they're ready to launch, and we're expecting to be able to launch them likely spring of 2026. So there's a bit of a runway there, but they've done all the back-end approvals to be ready to launch. And then we have the communities highlighted in green that are in the so-called planning phase. They've started the process. They're not quite ready to launch a program, but they're on their way.
Do you, on your website, would there be any way to determine when Fitzwilliam joined, when they launched, or Enfield, or any,
Yep.
like who's the first town to join and who was the last? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our documents like that, a lot of them fall under the key documents portion of our website, which contains a number of different types of reports. One of them that's pretty interesting is our community benefit report that walks through town by town, individual savings, reserves, other related figures, and it lists launch dates next to every one of those
Okay.
community names, so I'd be happy to share that. We have other resources that include launch dates, but there are really about 12 communities that went out in that first wave, we call it, and launched programs together. And then since then, the number of launch programs really exploded in 2024. So that first batch started April, spring 2023. We had some come on, like Dover, who I helped launch the program in Dover, happened in the fall of 23, and then 24, there was just this like explosion of growth after.
So it's only been a couple of years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any way, and this is a stretch, but it would be interesting to look at comparable demographics. Like, do we have most in common with Lyme? Or,
Some towns.
Yeah.
It's a mystery town, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, we could pull similar sized communities and statistics for participation rates. Obviously the level of, savings, et cetera, is gonna depend on the amount of load in your community, which we won't know until we pull that information, but, and what the rates were and how long they've been active. So there's lots of factors, but we could look at, cases that are similar. I believe there's about 9,000 or so people that live in
Yeah,
this community.
very close.
So, yeah.
I see that Cheshire County did it as a county, and Belknap is looking into it. There's no movement in Hillsborough County, I assume.
Correct. We have not, Andrew actually would be better suited than myself to speak to some of this, but as far as I'm aware, he's not seeing any movement on the Hillsborough side to launch a program. So there is an option, like if you were in Cheshire County, say, there's a more sort of streamlined path for launching through the county if you're a smaller community. However, in your case, you would have to take some of the steps, but in some ways, it's kind of nice. You have more individuality over your program. You've gone through a bit more of a process, but I think that allows commission members, others in the community to be more up to speed on what community power means by the time you actually go live. So
Okay.
I guess that's what I'll say about that. So I'll mention a little bit about, CPC&H by the numbers. So this covers that one point. The first programs were launched in April of 2023. So far, it's now grown a bit since I put this together, but we've served over 1.2 terawatt hours of energy through 50 community power aggregations. And if you break that down, assume 650 kilowatt hours a month per residential house, which we tend to use as a figure, that's enough to provide power to 150,000 homes for a year. So just capturing the scale of that amount of electricity there.
Is a terawatt hour 1,000 megawatts?
Yes. No, gigawatt, sorry, 1,000 gigawatt hours.
Oh, tell me again what a terawatt hour, that's new to me, I must admit, and I ought
Yeah,
to know.
so, it goes megawatt hours to gigawatt hours to terawatt hours.
All right,
Like hard
Impressive.
drives.
So it's a lot of energy.
okay.
Yeah, I guess a couple more things. Sorry, I mentioned the 20 million, which we are proud of that number. There's been about a 73% overall participation rate. So 200,000 of 274,000 eligible sort of electric counts are participating in programs in places that have programs, which I think is pretty standard for this industry. And then if you do a breakdown, obviously Eversource is the largest investor-owned utility in the state, so no surprise that we have the largest number of customers in Eversource, and then it kind of dwindles down from there. We're kind of most similar to the New Hampshire Electric Co-op. We have a different business model, but they're also a nonprofit. They're not a regulated investor-owned utility. So, we tend to sort of focus on program operations within the investor-owned utility territories and a little bit less so on launching programs in co-ops territory. This just shows who some of the staff and vendor partners are in our organization. So we have grown as a staff over the last year and a half or so. Currently, we have Henry Herndon is acting as the general manager. Henry has been involved since the very early days. He first was a consultant and then the director of member services thereafter. Mark is our director of projects and programs, some of which I'll mention later. I already talked about Dina on the regulatory side. Scott's our numbers guy. He crunches a lot of the data for us, which is really helpful. And then we have Bobby Joe. She kind of helps with our HR functions, but then also the administration of the board, setting up our annual meetings. We host an annual meeting for all our members, and then generally a fall meeting series as well to get everyone together. My role is more on the member services side. I'm generally helping our operating communities, so that's a nice part about CPC&H is we're a resource for you, and we really pride ourselves, one, in education, two, in providing non-biased technical support on projects and things that you're interested in. We, outside of the electricity business that you may choose to do business with us in or not, we like to be able to give sort of independent advice on other types of projects, whether you're interested in solar or you're interested in energy audits or, heating electrification, whatever it might be, we try to be a resource there. Andrew Hatch tends to work more with our communities that are in the planning phase or moving towards the launch process, so typically he would have been the person here tonight. And then we have Nicholas Gosling, who is really running our communication systems. He's our most recent hire. We've ramped up our capabilities on our website, on our newsletter content, our publications, et cetera, to make sure members are getting what they need in terms of comms. And Madeline is assisting him with a lot of those efforts. So that's
Chris
the
and
core
I
group.
met Madeline at the local energy conference.
Local Energy Solutions?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's probably at our booth there.
Yeah.
That's great. I was there as well, so sorry I missed you guys that day, but yeah, Madeline's excellent. And then we have a lot of vendors that work with us. Obviously we're a pretty small staff team for the level of operations that we handle, so we do rely on vendors on like the retail energy side. So if you think of the call center, sort of all of our back-end customer management, et cetera, we have a vendor that does that. Ascend Analytics is the portfolio management side of the operations, like I mentioned earlier. So they're helping us with forecasting our electricity loads, with managing, purchasing with our risk management committee, with trying to evaluate risks and trade-offs to decision-making. A lot of critical stuff that happens with them, as well as Community Choice Partners, who's our expert consultant that helped get all of this together. He's still pretty readily involved. I won't talk through all of these, but the point is we have a lot of professionals that make sure that this organization is run well and does what it needs to do. In terms of rates, right, so these are our current rates that are in effect now for electricity supply. You can see that we typically offer 4 products through our local programs. Granite Basic is the least cost option every time. That meets the state's renewable portfolio standard, or RPS, which is that 25.2% renewable content there. And it's currently 9.7 cents a kilowatt hour. We operate on a 6-month rate adjustment cycle. So the next time that there will be a rate adjustment, that will go into effect in August. That's aligned with how the utilities do it as well, to make sure there's price parity there. I'm going to talk more about what's happening with utility pricing though, and we'll see where things head in terms of we might eventually try to break away from that. But yeah, that's something to consider down the road.
Does anyone here know what the rate is here and where? Since I have solar, I haven't checked.
I just
No.
pay the bill.
Yeah, the supply rate, I will tell you, the supply rate for Eversource right now is 8.9. This is the first time we've been above their rate since launching programs. So I'll get to the figures that shows the graph and shows our savings over time. We've had good performance in the past. We think they're actually underpricing rates something we're dealing with. But I'll get to that, and it should hopefully become more clear.
Would the reason for the underpricing of the rates be because of the competition?
I think part of it's that. They've also, under the directive of the PUC, they've gone to a different purchasing model where they're leaving a lot more of their portfolio open to market exposure, whereas before they would lock in essentially everything for 6 months. Now they're leaving, utilities are leaving 30 to 50% open to the market, the day-ahead market. And we've had, a very cold winter. This spring has been mild, but the winter was very cold.
Right.
So, CBCNH felt that, but so did the utilities with all this market exposure. So, they're gonna have to likely bump their rates up because they're gonna under-collect, but we just wanna make sure that's all done fairly. But community power ultimately has created a lot more competition, which is good for all customers. Whether or not you're a community power customer, the utilities are paying more attention to what they're charging for electricity, and that's good.
Absolutely,
So,
Yep.
Yeah, it was up to 20-something cents for a short while.
it was, yeah.
For the
it
natural
was.
gas price spike, I think.
Exactly, yeah, that was, part of that was definitely global conflict induced, but, yep. So, yeah, you can see that, people can access 33, 50, or 100% renewable content. Those products are all served through renewable energy certificates, and we source those at a regional basis, so we've historically bought them all from New Hampshire or Maine, so we don't buy cheap RECs from a wind farm out west. We're actually trying to make sure that people that pay for these products are actually supporting, renewable energy that is happening close by. So I think that's a good selling point to participating in those. This is an older bill here, someone who had taken a higher content product, hence the rate that they were paying. But it's really meant to highlight that, we're really talking about this portion of the bill where you have the supplier. You can see this is from Peterborough. The Peterborough Community Power is listed as the supplier there. And that's the way it would show up for any of our other communities on an Eversource type bill. So we don't do dual billing, it's consolidated billing. I think that makes it a lot easier for everyone. And we had a bit of a prelude to this slide here, but this talks or shows that rates over time comparison. It's showing utilities, which are, you see NHEC in this sort of brownish color, Eversource in green, Unitil in yellow, Liberty in purple, and then red is our Granite Basic. And then we're showing a couple of other broker type models that have launched as well for comparison. But, since April, our track record has been pretty good, right? Over 15% relative to Unitil, 12 relative to Liberty, and closer to 9% relative to Eversource. And we've been pretty much on par with the co-op during that time period. But another thing I like to point out about this is you can just see, we had this really wide distribution in utility rates. Here, CPC&H comes along, we're doing really well, we're still doing well, but everything's just come together. Things have gotten more competitive. You see rates are all very similar. Again, this is a good thing for all customers, and folks have the most optionality they've ever had for competitive options. So, yeah, we're proud of that. But, there are some things to be concerned about, and this is why we're really trying to make people aware of our efforts with House Bill 760. We are really concerned that the PUC is initiating practices that are likely anti-competitive, and I'm going to talk through what's happening. I want to be super transparent with an audience, even like yourselves, that's early on in this process, so you could still get involved here, and you should know about this. So, like I mentioned before, they used to lock in 100% of their supply purchases at fixed prices. Now they're going towards a model where they're going to be taking between 30 to actually up to, in one case, 100% commodity market exposure, and potentially proposing that if there are cost overruns, meaning they don't collect enough revenue because they've priced a rate that's too low to make up for their costs, well, they're not going to lose money on that. That's not in their interest. So what we're worried about is that they will then seek to make themselves whole by shifting that cost to all customers. So whether or not they're competitive supplier customers, community power customers, even folks that net meter, that's gonna show up in your bill in like a stranded cost recovery charge. And that's a real issue, because that means they could effectively try to kill the competitive market because, well, they can price it as low as they want, and if they don't collect enough,
They just-
everybody foots it,
Right.
right? And that's a huge issue. So we have a bill that's been, gotten bipartisan sponsorship, because this is not a party lines issue. This is a markets issue. This is a consumer protection issue. And it would essentially ensure that, if they either over or under collect, that's fine. We don't have an issue with them taking on more exposure. I mean, this should be a safe option, an option of last resort for customers. They're taking a different approach. Okay, take a different approach, but we're trying to make sure that they collect either any windfall or shortfall from the actual customer base that is involved with that product, right? So that seems to be really logical in our opinions, logical in a lot of other people's minds as well. So that's the goal, and if you have any connections or can take the time to encourage folks to support 760, everyone would really appreciate it. So that's my pitch there. But
Said they would recoup costs if they were losing money from stranded.
stranded cost recovery charge would be one area on the bill that they could tack on additional
Because they set the
expenses.
rate so low.
Is there going to be a cap at that, or can they be like, oh, it's $2,700?
Well, I mean, this is the issue. We don't know exactly what this looks like yet because it hasn't happened. I'm not aware of any cap per se. What I'll say from our experience in the markets now, like, a utility rate of Eversource at 8.9 with the cold winter we've had, it's very likely that they've under-collected. And so that's all fine and good. In theory, that means, okay, their rate's gonna have to go up this next period, but it wouldn't if they could just shift the cost to everyone else. So it removes any competition in this area.
I thought they just upped it anyway, didn't they? Just before winter, they upped it like ridiculous amount.
Well, that might be the other portions of the bill separate from supply, but, I would like to point out quickly that we do have a public advocacy page where you can do a number of different things. There's a bill tracker feature, which is nice. You can sign up for our action alerts. You can find your local legislator. So this is one of the things we like to put out there, is we have these tools available for energy committees, for local residents to be able to quickly act on these things if they feel that they should. And we certainly welcome all the support we can get. All right, that's enough about that topic. Let's talk about more fun stuff of other things that we're trying to do here. So in addition to, these 6-month rates that are applied kind of across the board, we have been able to roll out some annual rates, which are really aimed at, meeting the needs of municipal electric users, for example, or commercial users. So we have 2 variations of this. We run a calendar year annual rate, Jan through December, and then one that operates on the sort of summer fiscal year schedule, which some municipalities and school districts are on. And so this has been pretty popular so far. We're not currently taking enrollments in Jan through December, but you could see what the rates were for those. And because we did it a longer period of time, we're able to price them ahead of time, we could get pretty competitive pricing there.
And that you've locked in that price.
Correct.
So you're not gonna end up with a shortfall that you then have to,
Because it's such a small portion of our load right now, and we've relied on pretty good hedging strategies, now we're pretty confident that we've been able to meet what we need there. Yep. Yep, so I've been the key accounts manager on the CPCNH side, and we have, over 200 accounts that have, signed up with one of our annual rates right now. It's not a huge amount, but they are larger accounts. I mainly bring this up because a lot of, municipalities, when their select board say, enacts a program like this, they're like, well, we'd like our town electric accounts to participate. And so it's nice to be able to give them price assurance for a year rather than 6 months for budget purposes.
I think when we look at Ware's electric bills, we do buy through an alternative supplier. I saw a different name, which I've forgotten.
I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of times that is the case, that, that you have some third-party broker contract that might give you a deal for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And that's a fine model. Some people wanted to lock in a price with us, so either one is okay. But it was really a response to municipalities wanting, pricing for a longer period. Rec aggregation, this is a pretty cool thing that I think we're doing, because unfortunately we are unable to purchase the power that net metering customers are putting back on the grid. No third-party supplier, is able to do that right now. Community Power unfortunately cannot do that. I can get into the reasons why, but it kind of has to do with the fact that you're essentially you would be buying the power twice. That's because you have to treat everybody like they don't have solar power that they're exporting when you purchase in the wholesale marketplace. So you have to buy for them anyway, assuming that they wouldn't be putting any power back onto the grid. And then, because of course they're going to put power back on the grid, you then have to pay them for the power that they're putting back on the grid. And this is why utilities are only able to really do this, because they have access to more portions of an electric bill than a supplier does, which is, can only impact that supply portion of the bill. I don't know if that makes complete sense.
Not yet.
Not at all,
Did
but-
anyone get that?
No.
No.
But
Okay. We're trying to move through a model where if we could reduce the amount of power that we had to buy, because we have a good understanding of how much solar we expect our customers to put onto the electric grid, then we'd be able to fairly compensate those customers with solar for the electricity that they're essentially now providing to the programs. Right now, under the current structure, we're not allowed to make any assumptions on how much solar they're putting back onto the grid. So we would have to purchase electricity for them, assuming that they're not producing anything.
Right.
And then pay a second time for the power that they do put on the grid. I kind of said it the same way.
so basically, so my house, right?
Yep.
So you're $100, right, a month. You have to get enough power for me, for $100 worth of power a month.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm generating it, you've got to pay for that $100 that I'm generating also, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Only what goes on the grid, not what you use.
Right, no, I understand, but I'm saying like, but that's,
Assuming
but-
$100 worth went on. the
right,
grid.
that's what I'm saying. I'm just making it very, very simple. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's kind of the basis of it, exactly.
Okay.
But what we can do right now is a lot of people with systems, right, they have renewable energy certificates, and they have an option to sell those, which is a way for them to, better finance their projects usually. So we are a registered aggregator in New Hampshire now, and we're able to buy those from small system owners, homeowners, and we're able to pay 95% of the market price because we don't have a lot of overhead in this area. And so we've been able to offer people a bit better rates. You can equate $35 a rec to like $35 a megawatt hour, or 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So, anyway. The point being that this is this is a nice option for people that have solar that they can't be a community power customer, but they can still interact with their local community power program, and this is one way to do that.
Do you only get renewable energy credits if you produce a surplus?
No. I don't believe it's
I
if
think you get the renewable energy credit for everything you produce.
right.
Because I haven't been getting them.
No, Public Service has taken them, they're just not giving you the money for them.
Right. So they're just using them?
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you understand that. Thanks. I wondered why I suddenly stopped getting that little $30 a quarter check or whatever that I used to get.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, look into this as an option, because you might be able to register your system with us, and we'd encourage you to do so. And then there's, in Eversource territory, this is a project that likely is going to get approved soon, so that's why I think it's worth bringing up. We're on track to be partnering with about a 5 megawatt solar array, and we have the opportunity now, because it's in the 1 to 5 megawatt range, to sign up governmental loads that might be interested. The advantage of that, if you link one of your governmental accounts to a project, is you can get effectively a cent to a cent and a half per kilowatt hour reduction in the effective rate that you pay. So there's two things that you can do there, right? You can either get a check on a quarterly basis from the project, or you can get an on-bill actual reduction or credit that's applied. And obviously it's dependent on, how many megawatt hours or kilowatt hours that you're subscribing, but we have a decent amount of space for this. So this is something that, we're gonna start by opening up to our membership, but certainly, even, we'd love to work with any community in New Hampshire that's interested, as long as it makes sense.
Where's the project?
So the project's actually in Warner, or up to near Warner, yeah. It's up north.
Yeah, well, Warner's not that far.
Yep.
so, That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So we'll have more details in terms of like an actual, project agreement that you could look at very soon for this. The only trade-off, I would say, if you're looking at, installing your own solar on a municipal facility, then you can't have both. You can't have it participate in a group like this and have your own solar project. So you have to evaluate those options, but we're building in a nice exit ramp where, you could give us a year's notice, say, hey, we have a solar project we want to develop, but it's going to take a year plus. Okay, let us know. We'll offload you from this agreement so that you can build your own project, and in the meantime, we'll find some other account to take your place.
By project, you don't mean putting solar panels on the roof of the fire station, do you?
I do.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Oh.
We did put in a grant proposal for that, but we,
Nice. Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, this isn't gonna be the right fit for everybody, but for some communities that either don't have the space or the appetite to do their own projects and still wanna maybe support solar, but get some financial benefit with like no overhead, this is a model that works for them.
yeah. It actually turned out that Ware is per capita a wealthier town than most of the other applicants, and that's the main reason I heard why we didn't win the grant.
Got it, yeah. Okay, so you're probably wondering at this point, well, what would be next in a joint process? If that's what you were interested in, you'll have a lot to think about here. But essentially, the first step is there's a joint powers agreement. So becoming part of our joint powers agency, you would have your select board vote to adopt the joint powers agreement, and basically that's what allows our membership to understand and agree to the coalition's sort of bylaws. It's non-binding in that you don't have to launch a program. You're just becoming a member. You're getting more engaged. You're understanding our processes better, and then you have plenty of time to work towards some of the more formal contracts and agreements. But step two is I would recommend, if you were gonna go down this path, that you have a newly formed energy commission. I think that's great timing. A lot of communities have their energy commissions serve as what we call electric aggregation committees, basically the advisory committee to the select board that prepares electric aggregation plan that outlines sort of the terms of the program that you're considering launching. And, you know, we have a very well-baked template that passes all the musters that need PUC approval. You know, we walk through that with you every step of the way, provide technical guidance, allow it to really, you to make it your own though. We want the individuality. So I'm just saying it's not super arduous. We've done this with 50 other programs. It's pretty well laid out at this point.
I got a question.
Yep.
Our select board chair, I believe, if I understand it, is under the impression that we would need a new committee of some sort in order to go through this process.
You do not. The existing Energy Commission, if you thought it would fit, could serve as that electric aggregation committee.
Okay.
The Dover's Energy Commission served as Dover's EAC. Yep.
So I'm gonna write that down, so I'm sure I get it right. Maybe
Good.
we should put it in the minutes. The existing energy commission can serve as,
I'd still have to question that, because what he said at the first, we're not the second thing he was talking about. We're not the commission that, we're like the exploratory portion of it. We're not the actual thing you're talking about, right?
we,
Because
You
we
could be.
still have to go to them to vote, or
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to get all that stuff,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But that's kind of the
But
point
we
of
can use this
the-
as the exploratory portion of it, basically, to give them the information and bring it to us.
Yeah, once, you wouldn't be appointed as the electric aggregation committee until your select board had the opportunity to review the joint powers agreement and say, hey, we actually want to start the process to do this thing. And then they would consider making you the aggregation committee,
Okay.
if you felt that was the right fit for where.
it will be a harder sell since the rates are slightly higher instead of lower.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and you may be best suited to honestly sit on this for a little while and
Till
see
August.
how things play out this summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially with what's happening on the regulatory side, like, we're not recommending communities try to fast track this right now, like, take your time with it. The same would be true for any other type of community power option that you may have. Like, I think it's worth watching things for a little while. I still, you know, there's no risk in the select board allowing you to become a member by signing the JPA. That is not binding. Even at the point where you have an electric aggregation plan and you decide to go another direction or not do anything at all, again, it's not binding. You have all of these off-ramps that are available to you as a community up until you sign the final contract saying, yeah, we commit to actually doing this. That's not even listed on this because it's further down the process, so,
Is there any financial obligation to becoming a member?
no, zero. It's simply, you know, we ask that you appoint someone as sort of your member representative and your alternate, and then they're invited to participate as much or as little as they would like in the organization. We obviously love if they want to be involved because that's great. But, yeah, there's no financial commitment.
Based on your experience, we wouldn't, the earliest that we would be able to approach a town meeting would be 2026, so it's
Right.
March 2026. And we certainly would want to wait until August to really see what the
Right.
numbers were.
Yep.
And what sort of lead time, like, you know, is there some sort of template in terms of, okay, it's August, numbers work in community power favor, and then do this in November, do this in December, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say between August and when you would have your town meeting, that is plenty of time for us to be able to assist you to get ready for town meeting.
Okay.
Good, thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yep. Yep. But, you know, again, it's at the pace of the community too. So if you say, hey, we need more time, we want, there is no pressure on our end whatsoever. There never will be. I'm not really here to sell you on anything. I just want to give you facts. I want to say this is an option that's worked for a lot of communities, and that's my role.
Right, but the
So,
town meeting is I think that's our deadline. I mean, I think that's when
Any
we,
deadline, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you know, if we're
Absolutely.
going to join, if we miss the town meeting in 2026, then
Right,
we're
it's
talking
2027.
2027.
It is. Yep.
So,
Yep.
seems to me that that's a pretty real,
Deadline?
well, you know, goal, if not deadline.
excellent. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, you should check out, or I'm happy to follow up with an email to what the JPA looks like, if you're curious of looking at that. And again, you know, you immediately, if your select board moves to allow the JPA to be signed, at that point, you can start participating. At that point, you know, we can be communicating more frequently. We can still provide you technical guidance and support at zero cost to the community. Like, there are some advantages of being, just trying to become a member as soon as possible if you're interested, and then you have plenty of lead time to figure out the next steps. So,
Are these slides available?
I'm happy to send them as a PDF.
Great.
Yep, I can do that.
I think we've seen similar before, but, yeah.
Yeah, so here's my contact info if you want it. Feel free to write that down, but yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Either myself or Andrew could, you know, also attend more meetings. We can attend a select board meeting. We can be involved with
That could be
any type
helpful.
of other
to-
processes in the future regarding this if necessary, so that's our role.
You would be much more familiar to answer questions.
Do you remember if, or no, or maybe you were even there, were you at the Energy Expo in Bow back in October?
I was not, no.
Okay, and you don't know if if the CPCNH,
It's quite possible. I was involved with Community Power, when I worked for the city of Dover, and then I was hired as a staff person in October, so right around
Oh.
that time. So I had just started
Okay.
in a staff role.
but Henry's been there from the start.
Yes, yes.
Was there a model? Because I've known Henry for a while, and did he see something, like, you know, when?
From another state?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there have been successful models for this in Ohio. Certainly California was the first state to really do it, but there's a couple Midwest states that have done it pretty well. Massachusetts has a version of community power, but it doesn't quite have this joint powers agreement structure. It's more of like, occasionally there's collaboration between communities, but a lot of those communities went off on their own and basically did like a broker type deal like they would for their municipal power, but then they did it for the whole community. So it's just a different approach. Some of it's been successful, some of it has been less successful there. And then there's a lot of interest right now for legislation in Connecticut using this approach, as well as in Maine, which didn't get brought forward this year, but we're thinking will likely go forward next year. So, you know, the JPA is kind of, I think, you know, obviously I work there, but I think the better model to doing community power, and that's what a lot of other states are kind of looking at right now, if they were to do something like
So
this.
what they're doing in Maine, you said we, like, are you somehow involved in sort of expanding into Maine? kinda?
No, not this, our organization in particular, but they've reached out to us for guidance,
Okay, right.
and we're providing, you know, our experience, some technical expertise. We would obviously like to see other states, if they are to do community power, we think this is a good approach, so,
Right.
we're kind of
Yeah.
available to talk.
One of your slides mentioned financials. I mean, like, do you guys have money? Like, do you have, like, money? I don't
Yeah,
understand
so-
how that part of it works.
Yeah, so we get paid, our actual operating expenses are relatively small. Most of what comes in through customer bills on that supply charges goes to actually the cost to procure the energy for them. So, we're about $100 million a year business. 90 plus of that is going towards the cost of energy. And then we have other expenses, contractors, obviously we have to pay staff.
Right.
There are other expenses involved, but yeah, I mean,
But you're not a nonprofit.
we are a nonprofit.
Oh, you are a
Yeah,
nonprofit.
we don't have shareholders.
Oh,
And
oh,
any
okay.
excess revenue that we collect are held, and I didn't really get into the whole joint reserves, discretionary reserves piece, but they're held by, the member communities through their programs. So, we use those for, keeping prices competitive, keeping, competitive and stable really is what we try to use those for, and to keep the organization healthy over the long term. But there's, this mechanism where if a member were to leave and its costs are all covered, well, you get paid out that portion of what's effectively your joint reserve. So instead of having, we don't have shareholders that we're trying to maximize profits for, it's like the communities hold any excess that we're producing.
They're sort of the shareholders.
Yeah.
Does this affect the ability for people that are enrolled in this to participate in the New Hampshire Saves programs, rebates for mini splits and things like that?
Affected no, I mean, folks are able to take advantage of New Hampshire Saves, even if they have competitive suppliers
Okay. I
or
didn't know.
community power.
I know when you're in different community areas, like if you're in Eversource or you're in, up in Concord area, the utilities fund that. their
Unit
part
or
of it,
whatever.
Yep, yep. I mean, you're still a utility customer for most of what you pay, over half generally of what you're paying. So you're still able to take advantage of New Hampshire Saves, although that program is kind of under attack again right now, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll see what happens there, but.
But RSA 53A, is it popular enough that that isn't under attack, or is it?
53E, yeah, the
E,
RSA
is it?
itself, I mean, it's law. We're a very bipartisan organization. We're an organization that I think is very well aligned with New Hampshire values, which is, pro-competition, pro-local control, pro-choice. We want to make sure that communities are able to achieve their energy goals, whatever those energy goals look like. Whether it's competition and stability, or it's, hey, we want to build a renewable energy project, or yada, yada, yada. We really try to work with all folks on the legislative front, and have had really good support from, like, Michael Vose, if you're familiar with him, chair of the Science, Tech, and Energy Committee. He's involved with us through his own member community.
Good.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty safe on that front.
I hope so. Seems like it so far.
Where'd you come from? You said you started in October. What were you doing before?
Yeah, so I was essentially their energy and environmental planner for the city of Dover,
Oh,
New
okay.
Hampshire.
Yeah.
Before that, I came from an academic background. Actually went to school. My PhD is in chemistry. I was more on the environmental chemistry side of things. Really like that. Love the research, but also have always had this itch to be in the energy world, and started in the local government side and then moved to this state organization.
Yeah. Now, I notice you have a .gov email, so so obviously it's a part of the state of New Hampshire in some way.
It's not. It's a little confusing. So we work for all of our board is comprised of all of our governments who we ultimately are working for. So we are sort of this nonprofit, quasi-governmental organization. We're not true government. We are government enough to get .gov email addresses.
Okay.
But,
All right.
yeah.
Wow, are there any further questions for Jackson? Well, he's here. I think there were a couple things that I didn't get quite clear, but maybe by reviewing slides and,
Yeah, any follow-up I can try to help with too. It went a little longer than I said, so.
That's all right.
yep.
No, this is great.
We kept asking you questions.
No, that's good.
Next
Yeah, I
time, I'll
really
just have
appreciate it.
popcorn ready for everybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for the invitation
Uh-huh.
and glad to be in touch with you all and happy to visit Ware.
Much appreciated.
Watch out for the chicken on the way back.
I will. I've gone rogue.
Now it'll be a skunk.
Middle of the
There was,
road.
on, the other day, I got hit by a gang of 3 deer. They rammed the side of my car.
Oh, dear.
They were waiting. They were literally waiting for me.
You get jumped,
Yeah,
as it were?
that's what it was. That felt what it felt like.
Wow.
They literally, like, the first one took out my front end.
Oh,
and then
no.
The other 2 jumped my back end. I'm like, what?
Did you
guys-
total it?
No.
Oh.
Totally, well,
I
till
had a-
the estimation comes in from the company, you know, it's
Yeah,
never
right.
total.
I had a moose do that. That was
Yeah.
major repair.
Yeah, years ago, I lost a van to a deer that went in one window, through the van and out the other window.
Oh, my God.
I don't think it really knew it was going that
Strange.
fast.
Circus deer.
Now, folks, I do not have my own agenda unless I pull it up. Does anyone have it up?
2 minutes, we're gonna do the minutes next.
Yes, minutes are next.
Okay.
but-
Thank you very
so
much,
if you-
Jackson. Great
Thank
job.
you, nice to meet you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Safe home.
You need the actual minute, who has the actual minutes?
That is the question I haven't been able to track down. Who has the minutes? I asked James and I didn't get a reply.
I don't see it in any of the emails, I do see the bylaws,
Yes.
but,
We may have to move on to bylaws and I'll continue trying to track down the minutes.
okay.
I
The
feel,
next thing on the next third was updates on energy audits.
right, are you willing to cover that?
Sure,
I
sure.
should have warned you, but.
No, that's fine. So, Margaret Dillon is the auditor. She is from SEEDS, which stands for Sustainable Energy Education and Demonstration
Is
Services.
that the way it's spelled, or is it CEED?
SEEDS, like
Okay, seeds, okay.
plant seeds.
You say Margaret?
Margaret Dillon, Dillon.
I am.
And she's been through, identified four buildings, and, has done just the town offices so far, is my understanding. She's got some other ones scheduled. But we have, in place doing the South Fire Station, 15 Flanders Memorial Road, which is
Here.
this, yep, okay, thank you. Some of them are named and some of them aren't. 48, no, it's still 15 Flanders. 48 Bullard Road, which I believe is, no, that's not right.
I don't.
Anyway, sorry, that's where she is. Anyway, there's 4 buildings she's identified, and we're going through them.
Library, I thought was one,
I
wasn't it?
believe library is one of them. There were a number of them that she went through, like a list of 7 of them, and then we had to prioritize them, so she's been going through and,
Yeah, and I pushed for the South Ware Fire Station because
Yeah.
I saw some fairly high heating costs down
Right.
there.
Oh, dear.
so she has done, she's been coordinating with the contacts at each location. I know she had a few questions about this building, and she's trying to get in touch with Naomi to get those answered or get access to different information. But she seems very, very detail-oriented and really on top of things. So typically, she says she likes to do the site audits during the spring, winter and spring, and then she does the paperwork into the summer when there's not much going on in that respect. So we should have them, she'll share them with Eversource and then share them with us, and with some recommendations of what can recommendations for improving things. And then New Hampshire States can work with the town to implement some of those suggestions
Yeah.
if we so decide. So,
I think the reason she wants to do the some of the audits in the cold weather, the infrared camera would show up
Yeah.
better when you.
Yeah.
They do an infrared, the colder the better.
Yeah, so she had one that was scheduled, I think, for tomorrow, I think, and she pushed it off, because it was supposed to be colder next week, so.
Yep, good.
But evidently they'll, they will work, New Hampshire State will work with the town to do that and get rebates and, discounts on things that.
Cool.
work that's
You
done.
said library, town hall, self-fire station, and what was the last one?
I think it was the safety complex.
I believe the safety complex, yeah.
Okay.
They were thinking of doing the North Fire Station, but I think that didn't make the cut.
Yeah, we kind of vetoed
Did,
that.
Bruce, did they get the okay to build that carport
No.
kind of thing at the
No.
cop station? Oh, okay.
All right, thanks, Chris.
we just
Appreciate that. So we'll get further updates as things
Yeah.
go on. She hasn't seemed to need us to meet her if
No.
she's spoken with the librarian and either the police or fire chief, and
Buildings are open.
so that's taken care of, but I hope we'll hear. And I hope New Hampshire Saves still has some funding to help us
Step
out.
one.
Bruce, what would the process be? So she files a report, New Hampshire Saves weighs in, and we need, the recommendations are X, Y, and Z. How are X, Y, and Z implemented?
Well, we get some bids on doing the work.
Yep. And I guess
And then, decide how we're gonna fund it.
Oh, that,
There's always that, yeah.
Okay,
and if there's significant cost savings, then
I'm
it
sure
would
this
be an easier.
payout
sell.
is part of the, the benefits part of that calculation, but whether to do it or not, yeah.
so depending on the cost will determine, is it something that is a town meeting thing, or is it something that can
Well,
happen?
the town has a, building maintenance budget.
So if it's a,
So if it's a cost savings, it could be calculated pretty good, and you should be able to.
okay,
Yeah.
It would definitely be something worth it, looking at in the maintenance budget, because it's gonna
sure,
save the town money immediately and year after year.
right.
Right,
Yeah, depending on how long it takes to recoup
yeah.
Right.
the savings. Okay, anything more on the energy audit?
Thanks, Chris.
It was great to delegate that and have you pick it up. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, our bylaws next.
Banner design.
So the banner design is actually next.
Okay,
Still has a question mark, so I don't know, are we looking at another version of it, or
No progress.
no
I've
problem?
not done anything, we and I should talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, I guess the other question was, since we have
Is
a
there money?
default budget, is there money for it?
Bruce, do you have any idea
We
yet,
haven't
Bruce?
even looked at it yet.
Oh, okay.
If you want to check on whether we might be able to get a banner for 100 to 125, if you could check whether that money,
I think we should still plan it anyway, because, I mean,
someday we may be able.
Well, James too was gonna check, I think it was James who was gonna check into we have a printer?
Yeah, he gave me the guy's name.
Oh.
I just haven't gotten in touch with him
Oh,
yet.
oh,
He's in
okay.
Pinardville,
Okay,
and
so
he started the business in Ware, and he moved to Pinardville, so he's a
Okay.
local person.
Got it.
And he has the seal. That's the whole thing.
Oh, I see, right.
So Bruce, the idea of this is if we have a table at the New Hampshire Energy Expo,
Sure.
which Laurie is our
Yep,
connection to, but say we were moving along on community power and wanted to have a table sometime to explain to the Ware citizens about community power, it would be good to have the banner. So there are a number of reasons we may want that.
right,
So we've been looking at designs and.
yep.
All right, that'll move along and we'll maybe just put it on the agenda next time also,
Sure, sure.
so that, okay?
Well, but also, we need the answer to the question, is there even any money?
Right.
So,
So maybe, do you want a minute or, I mean, note it that
I did. Yeah,
Bruce
Minute.
will look into whether.
I
we
just
can-
said no progress right on it and revisit.
And Bruce Fillmore will investigate whether
Yep.
there are funds available. Did the process of setting the agenda work for people, that I just send it out a day or two early and you look at it and see if you have any additions, and then
Yeah.
I
That's fine.
send it to Naomi? Yeah,
My email's not working.
still haven't been able to get
I
that.
got in and then it quit,
Oh, shucks.
so I'll have to call them again.
Good luck with that. It'll be good to have you, included. All right, I suspect that next
Well,
is,
I don't
All
see
been waiting
any,
for.
I don't see any electronic minutes from last meeting, so
No,
I'm
I
not
checked
sure
also.
how that was, who, what, where the meetings were, or where the minutes were, so I'm thinking we're just gonna have to bypass that on that. The only other thing you and I had discussed was the email signature.
yeah, I want to do the bylaws before we're done, but, yeah. Do you want to pull that up and show people? And
Sure.
we could add that to the other items to come before the meeting.
Well, this is a real quick thing, this is just something that,
Yeah.
Exhibitors from last year.
While he's pulling that up, who had a chance to take a look? You probably didn't get a chance to take a look at the bylaws. I know Chris did.
Yeah.
Did you think they were okay? Chris came
Yeah.
up with one, awkward phrasing that he made. a
That he
good suggestion.
improved, or he made more awkward?
Made more awkward, that's my
Okay.
specialty.
No, I think he improved it. I think I said something like, we proposed to think about maybe, something in that.
My concern, because I do think that part of our mission is to help to educate the public about options, and I think that's covered in the mission. I think
You
that
did feel that it
I
was there?
did, I
Oh,
felt
good.
that
Okay.
without, I felt that that was covered, so.
Could you
That's
send me a copy of the bylaws?
that's what I was looking
Yeah,
for.
I didn't know till tonight that
Yeah.
you were here, so I will be sure to send bylaws to Bruce.
It's B. Fillmore at WayNewHampshire.gov.
Yeah. Okay,
why is it doing, hold on here, oh, that's why.
what was I gonna say? The way I wrote the bylaws was to look at bylaws of at least 4 other towns and just see what seemed to apply to us, and
No sense reinventing the wheel.
Right.
just, I picked pieces from here and there, and I think that awkward phrasing I picked from one of those
Done it
towns.
myself.
I just forwarded to you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was quick.
Well, it doesn't look like it's stuck, so hopefully, did it come to you?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, there it is, it's just because our Wi-Fi is so,
It came through.
Yeah, I saw it. So, this is a,
you can
Like a-
pass, you can just pass it
would
around.
you call it a banner or a byline? you call it?
We just basically call it just a bottom banner.
And this
Oh.
is,
Oh, this
is
is,
that a leaf? What's the
Yeah,
graphic?
it's off the website, I didn't.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So, just because it's an official town one,
Yeah, it's got the town seal.
Right.
I
Oh,
You seen it?
fancy.
I think I just hear it. Yeah.
think, do we even want to vote on this? Is it significant?
Yeah.
I mean, and Naomi already said that it was pretty good, so,
She thought it was
yeah.
good.
But you wanted me to add the Energy Commission portion of it, so.
All right, so, all those in favor of adopting this banner at the bottom of our
Title, I guess, email
Yep.
signature is what we call it.
email signature?
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Okay, who did we,
So,
yeah, that way.
I don't know how official we need to be on this, but
Okay.
I will move that we adopt this email signature banner at the bottom of our emails. Is there a second?
Sure.
Chris seconds.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any voting against? So it's unanimous, we'll do that.
Thanks, Charles.
Will it automatically just appear when
So
we?
what I'll do is I'll give you guys instructions on how to make it your default. You'll have to build what's called a signature in Outlook. I'll give you all those instructions.
Okay, thank you.
Will it take as long as it took me to set it up?
No,
The email?
It's obviously a pain for many of us.
literally, you just, with the email that I send you, you're just gonna cut and paste and change the personal information, my name out of there, title, to whatever your name title is.
I don't think I even put
And the rest of it will be in there.
anything.
I mean, this is the email from you, and I don't see, it's not on there.
No, I didn't send, I only sent it to him
Oh.
because we were talking about maybe using it.
Okay,
So,
all right, then I'll
Much appreciated.
be patient.
Appreciate
Chris, you
doing
seconded
that.
it?
Not as strong.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any other business to come before the meeting?
Nope, that's it. Bylaws are the next thing.
All right, oh, that's right. So, 3 people got a chance to, 2 people besides me got a chance to look at them. Do you,
I was pretty okay with them.
Bruce, you probably want to see them before
See
you?
one, I think this, paragraph where you're electing a chairman and vice chair and secretary.
Yeah,
The last sentence, the officers shall serve a 3-year terms unless they the officers. Most other boards, the officers are a yearly thing, because,
Well, we have a structure, 1, 2, and 3 year.
for our membership.
yeah,
Yeah.
so if one of the members isn't reappointed and they're an officer, that's why,
We may have to go change officer then, because I don't think we're called officers.
yeah, that's why most of the other boards, they appoint officers
Yearly,
yearly,
right.
annually.
That makes sense to me now that you mention it. So I'll change that, yearly officers. We can have a quick election.
We should have these minutes done by next year.
Yearly officer election, that means you have a chance to replace all of us.
So this is Article 3, membership, paragraph 3. Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
Article 3,
I thought the selectmen were the ones who gave us
yeah, it's paragraph 3, yeah.
Okay.
They gave us the 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year.
Yes, so
So,
I am a 3-year,
yeah,
That was just to get the board rolling.
Yeah.
As appointments come up from now on, they'll all be 3-year appointments.
after these initial,
Right.
okay.
but when we,
It's a rolling thing going, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so there's always a,
Replacing everybody
yeah,
every 3rd year.
Right.
Right.
makes sense to have
Like
the
I'm a
overlap.
1 year.
Yep.
That was just so that the staggers the terms
Right.
to begin with.
So if you were an officer, you would have to be
Replaced.
Right.
replaced or reelected if you're,
Yeah,
okay,
it just makes it easier if
I think you're right. Okay. So this is when I should have asked, is there any other business to come before the meeting?
So we're not voting on the bylaws?
can't.
I think, do you want to have a little more time, Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're waiting for,
just just read it quick, I think.
Yeah.
that makes sense to me.
We'll table that until the next meeting.
I think if Bruce wants to read them a little more carefully,
Well,
that's quite reasonable.
Yeah, we can do that, because, I mean, if you're still not getting mail, you're not gonna get,
I don't have it.
yeah.
Yep. And I have a couple changes to make,
Yeah, that's fair.
and I'll send them around again. And then the next meeting, I'll put that on the agenda to,
So do you need a motion to table it till the next meeting?
I don't think so, because I didn't say we were voting tonight. I just said discussion on the agenda. I mean, on the bylaws
Right.
agenda for, and again, it'll be 3rd week in April.
I
So-
do have a thing gonna come to everybody, it's a reoccurring meeting every 3rd Monday.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I just don't know who's on the committee yet, so that's been my kick in my head.
Well, you did all right with this last one, didn't you?
Yeah,
I just didn't see it. Is it on the
Well, it's only going out tonight, right? So I started.
Oh, you haven't looked at it yet. It was at 6:55.
Yeah,
You've got, obviously yourself, David, Sam,
yep.
Monique Nelson. I think, is she the calendar lady? Is that why she's?
I went by whoever was in my
Okay.
drop down for
Yeah.
my email,
And
basically.
I don't know who Tina Conroy is, but Chris Conroy and then Elizabeth. So.
Yeah, that's why I said I gotta tweak it a little.
You know,
Okay.
town treasurer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta tweak all that, cause
The only one I would have thought might be on this would be Naomi. No?
She wasn't here last time.
she doesn't come to all the meetings,
Well,
so-
but Tina nor do Tina or Monique.
Correct. Like I said, I went on
Oh, you just, okay,
my list of people that
Okay.
have that .gov,
okay.
and I looked at who I knew familiar with, and then it was like, well, these people should be in there too. So
Okay, so no Monique and no Tina.
they're all it's gonna be cleaned out. I just wanted to set it up so that I reminded myself to
Got it.
fix it.
Do you want us to tell you if we were here last time?
Nope, it's not even that.
No, he's,
Okay.
he-
No.
it's the recurring.
It's
The-
it's
yeah,
to remind
the
you every
reminder.
third
Okay,
Monday.
okay,
Right.
okay, I
you
got it.
know. And I have to roll it back. I'm gonna give it like 30 minutes as opposed to 5 minutes. Just,
Yeah,
it's just,
or maybe an hour.
could even be the day before.
Yeah,
mean,
but yeah, I think the day before is better.
Okay.
Because you were looking for an RSVP, and that sort of
That's
felt.
only what Microsoft wants.
Oh, okay,
you know.
yeah, not so much you.
Yeah, because it now makes an office or a Teams meeting if you don't specifically say it's just
Just a
whatever.
reminder.
So Microsoft
Just a friendly
Yeah,
reminder.
Microsoft just takes over and says, hey, you know, we're gonna do that, this and the other thing.
Got it.
So, if everybody wants to email me, I can get you the banner and the thing. This way I don't have to find out, and then I'll know who to give the email reoccurrences to. And then I'll take the other people out. I meld over, Naomi being there, but she's usually on the side when we need to ask questions and stuff, so I wouldn't think she'd need to be at the meetings.
No, that's, I was just thrown because Tina and Monique were there, and I'm like, if they're there, I would think Naomi would be, but I misunderstood.
Yeah, exactly. I just threw it together real quick before the meeting, so.
Okay. So in April, we'll hope to get past minutes approved. Another report on the audits, maybe vote on the bylaws. Anything else that people are aware?
I mean, I'm happy to update on Expo anytime, but at the same time, we don't have a ton of new information, really.
I think the 23rd of April is our next meeting. Does that sound right? No, that's
No.
4th,
That's
16,
April 16th.
2/9/16, yep, so it'll be 16 April.
Okay.
But it'll come, the machine does that, I don't even have to think about that, so just let the machine do all that. Numbers are difficult for me.
Well, I appreciate you volunteered to do the minutes tonight, so
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I didn't make the motion.
I
just
thought you
said I did.
entertained it.
Entertaining it means I'd have to hear it.
Oh.
Okay, I move that we adjourn.
All right, he's moving over there, I'll move over here.
We're seconded by Charles. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
That was interesting.
I think we're making some progress on.
We are getting there.
Number of
We're like,
things.
going from beginner swimmers to, we can get near the water now.
And